Hi everyone, Jason Hoppy here to show you the blend tool in Adobe Illustrator. Now, if you've never used the blend tool before, it's quite an intriguing little tool that's got a lot of hidden little tidbits of goodness inside. And if you grab the blend tool over here in the toolbar, which the shortcut for this is W, you can blend basically any shapes together. Open shapes, closed shapes, whatever you want. And there's three different types of blends that we can have. So in order to blend objects together, I've got a whole series here that we can blend together. We can do this in two different ways. One of the easiest ways to do it is to go in and just simply select both of the shapes that you'd like to blend together. To find the menu command to do the blend, it's under the Object menu, under Blend. We can use the tool, the actual blend tool itself, but we're going to show you both ways to do this. So, if we go under Object and we choose Blend, we're first going to choose our blend options so that we can choose how we want to blend these shapes together. So, Object, Blend, Blend Options. Here, the Blend Options dialog box appears, and we have three different sets of spacing here: smooth color, specified steps, and specified distance. If we choose smooth color gives us no other parameters other than it's just going to simply blend my two selected objects together with nice smooth color. So I click OK. Nothing happens because we were just setting up the options to make that blend. In order to actually make the blend happen, you go back under the Object menu, under Blend, and choose Make, which is also a shortcut here. So this is Option Command B, so it's going to be Alt Control B on the PC. Once I make that, it's going to blend this together in smooth color. Now, in this particular shape, we have just an orange circle. There's no stroke on it. This, however, has a stroke on it, so it's trying to blend both the shapes together and the colors. Since this object has a stroke on it, of course, the predominant color that you're going to see is the color of the stroke. Once you do your blend, it basically becomes an effect. And what an effect is it's something that isn't truly made up of all these different shapes. It's actually just the appearance of all these different shapes. If we go into the View menu and choose Outline, which is Command or Control Y, you'll see I still have my original shapes connected by a path, which in this case is called a spine. And you can see that I don't see individual objects being blended together here. I just see the spine in which they blend along. I'm going to go back under Command Y to turn this back on again. If I would like to change the attributes of either of my shapes that I blend together, with my selection tool, I'm going to select my blend. Then I'm going to double-click to get into isolation mode, and then double-click again to go in and isolate just that one shape from my blend. Here, I can change the attributes of that blend, and specifically I'm going to take off the stroke, or put a little bit of stroke on here. I can rotate, I can scale, and I can change my corner widgets to create quite a fascinating blend. Pretty simple. Now to get out of my isolation mode, which I see is up here at the top of my screen, I'm just going to hit Escape, and it gets me back out, and now I can select my shape as an entire blended component. So this particular blend is called Smooth Color. It just very nicely blends the color right along, and if I were to have just no stroke on this end one here, you'll see that it just does a beautiful job and very much creates a gradient. And again, you can go in, edit your shapes here, change your shapes, rotate them, do whatever you'd like, and you can see that you will get that blend happening. So different things can be done to those shapes after you've gone in and created your blend. I'm going to hit Escape to get out of isolation mode. Now I'm going to select my next two objects. Well, these are open shapes, okay? Not a problem, we can still do a blend. Under the Object menu, I'm going to choose Blend, I'm going to choose Blend Options. I'm still going to use Smooth Color here because I'd like to show you what happens when we have open shapes. So I set that, and I still need to make my blend happen after I do that. And there's my smooth color. If I'd like to isolate those shapes, double click on any one of those shapes here, and I can rotate those around, and you can see that the blend is just going to be continuous. Kind of interesting. Okay? Hit escape to get back out of my isolation mode. Now, if I've blended these together and I don't like the blend, go back under the object, under blend, and I can release my blend. So it just brings me right back to my original shapes. Okay, so that was smooth color. Let's go under object blend and let's try a different set of blend options here. Let's try specified steps as my second option. Specified steps will go ahead and fill in the distance between your objects here. It does not count your first and your last object, so if you'd like 10 objects overall, the first and the last are not included in this number here. Specified steps means you'll get 8 steps between here, 10 overall if you count your first and your last. I click OK. Then Object, Blend, Make. And here is my blending of the objects, both the color and the shape. If I double-click to isolate any one of these and I change the attributes of this, you'll see that those entire blends will go ahead and conform to what I've done, which is kind of cool. And you can rotate these around, change the color, change the stroke weight, whatever, and that blend is going to happen. Okay, that can be kind of interesting. We're going to show you practical examples of this, but I just want to show you what happens when you put these together. So I'm going to grab the third one here. I'm going to go under Object, Blend, Blend Options. And here I'm going to do Specify Distance. And now it's going to ask me the distance here. So I'm going to put in, say, 15 millimeters, and I'm going to click OK. Now, Object, Blend, and I want to go ahead and choose Make. But nothing's happened because I don't have a second shape. Okay? So I'm going to Option or Alt, click and drag. And I'm going to put 2 of these together. I'm going to make a set of fence posts here. And the reason why I show you with one object is because every once in a while people will take an object and be like, I want to blend it. But you have to blend it to something. You can't just have one object. It has to blend to another object. So Object, Blend, Blend Options, Specified Distance of 15 millimeters. I click OK. Object, Blend, Make. And what it's going to do is it's going to space them out 15 millimeters apart. Okay, that's kind of cool. That works. Now, this is going in and using the Object Blend command here. Okay? I want to show you how the Blend tool will work if we just use the Blend tool manually. So this is kind of interesting. I'm going to start off with a circle up here with a color. And I'm going to pick a color. And then I'm going to actually blend it to, say, another circle. I'm going to blend it to a polygon. That sounds like more fun. The reason why is because we have different points in the polygon here. So let me go in and we'll go purple and magenta. I'm going to select both of these shapes. Actually, don't even have to. Because when you're using the blend tool here, which is the shortcut W, you can go in and what you want to do is you want to touch these shapes from where you want to blend from and to. Now, I haven't selected the shapes because sometimes people forget to select the shapes. However, when you take your blend tool, you'll notice when I hover over where my points are that make up the shape, my blend tool will have that little dark area. Basically, it knows where the anchor points are. So if we select this and you see where my anchor points are, you'll notice that when we hover over those anchor points, my blend tool will get that black little square. And what that's doing is that's basically creating a point in which we're going to blend from this one to this object over here. So you don't have to have these selected, okay, because it will figure out where your points are. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect from this point here on the circle, and I'm going to blend to this direct point here on my polygon. Now what's nice about the tool is that once you go in and you click on it, it all of a sudden goes in and gives you a blend. But which blend did we choose? Okay, did we choose specified steps? Did we choose specified distance? Or did we choose smooth color? Well, what we can do is double click on the blend tool, and whatever last specified spacing you used is what this is going to give you. because I have my object still selected, if I go in and choose smooth color, it will then give me smooth color, and I click OK. So I can get my options by double-clicking on my blend tool. Now, interestingly enough, with this particular object, it blended the circle, and then it kind of got really narrow and it got very large. When I did my blending over here with the circle and the square, it seemed to blend and it didn't pinch in the middle here. Here's the reason why. I'm going to undo this, and you're going to see what happens. When I select my objects here, you'll notice that I have my pull handles on my object right here. Okay, there's my anchor points right there. And if I go in and I select this object, there's my anchor points. Well, what I want to do is I want to connect similar points to similar points. So if I go ahead and I click on this point right here on the circle, I want to click on the closest corresponding point here, which is going to, so say this is my outside rightmost point. I then want to click on the outside rightmost point here in order to get those to be in their similar location. When I click on the outmost right point here and the outmost right point here, it's going to blend it together as I would expect. I'm going to undo this. If I click on the outmost point here and click on, say, this point down here, it now has to take my circle and rotate this point around to this point. So as it turns, it's rotating, rotating, and rotating. So this point basically rotates around right to there, okay? Which is why you get really funky shapes in there. Now, if you want to avoid that, you can always go and do, like outside left to outside left, and there you have it. If you do end up in a situation where you get some funky blend because you've clicked on the top here and then you clicked on the lower right here and it's not blending the way you want to, go back to your selection tool, double click to isolate your shapes, and you can always go in and you can change the rotation of your shapes, which is going to change the point where you basically connected from and to. And then you can rotate your shapes until you get your type of blend that you think is right. Okay, so that's a nice way to be able to do it. So there is some weirdness when you go through. I'm going to show you the blend that we do when we actually have two lines. And this could be kind of cool too. I can blend two lines together very simply with just two green lines. Grab my blend tool, click on the end point of one of the lines, click on the other point, and it blends it together. But now if I were to go in with my selection tool, double click to isolate, and then rotate this line and basically change the direction here, now we get something totally different. It's because it's twisting. Now the point that I connected down here is now connecting up here, so it has to twist around and turn in order for those points to be basically connected. So if you get weird type of connecting patterns or shapes here, it's all because of the way the corresponding points that you clicked on connect to each other. It can be very normal, just like you want it to, or it can be very weird. Even though these both look like vertical lines, one of them is going the opposite direction, and then you get this kind of shape, which could be very intentional. I'm going to click Escape to get out of my isolation mode. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to do one more with my specified steps right here. And I'm going to create another little fence post that I had done before. Create a rectangle, take my direct selection tool, select just the tops, corner widget the tops, and then Option or Alt click on the corner widget to change the corners. I'm going to fill this with a color. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to go in and I'd like to put a specified number of steps between the two using my blend tool. Grab the blend tool. I'm going to connect on one point, connect on the corresponding point of the other, and it blends it all together. Double click on the blend tool, and now I'm going to choose specified steps. And with the preview button checked, I can now go in and I can choose the number of steps that I want in here. I'm just putting my cursor in the value field here and using my up or down arrow. Now this could be something really cool, okay? You don't have to have spaces in between there. Well, that's kind of interesting. Okay, that can work. So if I want it all put together, kind of like a crown or, a little bridge or a little type of decorative piece, I certainly can. If I'd like little fence posts or little houses, I can specify that and keep those steps separated. You can always go in with your selection tool, double click and isolate that, move your end object away, and that will simply stretch out the shape and the blend between those two shapes. Escape is going to get you back out of your isolation mode. So, pretty interesting types of blends here. But that's just the beginning, okay? You'll notice that all these blends are in a straight line. And if I go under my View menu under Outline, which is Command or Control Y, you'll see that when I have solid shapes here, I will get a spine connecting those shapes together. When I have open shapes, you don't see a spine. Well, why does that matter? Why do you need to see the spine? Well, how many times do you want to go in and blend something not in a straight line? Okay? And no matter what you do, you can always connect the two together. If I isolate, you'll notice that they always connect in a straight line, no matter what. Okay? No matter where I put the two objects. They don't connect with a curve. So going back under Outline mode using my Command or Control Y, I can manipulate this line in order to change the spine. Now again, open shapes do not give me a visible spine. Closed shapes do. Why? Not sure, but it's always been like that. So what I'm going to do to change the method of my spine here, I'm going to go and I'm going to use my curvature tool. And in Outline mode here, it's where I can see my spine. I'm going to click on that spine right there. I have to have it selected first. Now I'm going to click on the spine. I'm going to add a point right there. And I'm going to curve that spine. Let's see what this looks like with my Command or Control Y. Okay, there it is. So now I can change the curvature of the spine. And you'll notice when I change the curvature of the spine, they kind of pile up in front of each other here. And it's like, oh, I don't really like that. Okay, so we can go back under the Object menu, go back under Blend, we can go back to Blend Options here, and we can choose the orientation in which they blend. Here I can do Align to the path, which gives me those rotating along the line of the path, or we can just do Align to Page. Now the one interesting thing with the blend tool is that when I do that curved line there, it seems like it kind of piles it up to the end, like you're pushing through it and you're kind of like moving something, like moving boxes out of the way, and you're kind of compacting the boxes at the end of the line. That's one of the things that the blend option does, okay? Going in here and specifying the steps in between, you can go in and you can see how that looks and do that, but it's not going to go ahead and change what it is that you've done. So if I go in and I do the specified steps here and do this, you'll notice that it doesn't go in and help me with the spacing in between. It just gives me my curved line. So that's one of the interesting things that can be done. Now, what's nice about this is that you can select your entire path here, your spine, and if you do use your curvature tool, you can land multiple points along here, and you can pull this along and create any type of shape that you want and be able to kind of move these along, okay? Not the perfect spacing, so you do get kind of that disjointed spacing as you go through to do that, but it could be cool. So now what happens if you'd like to put this around like a circle? Trying to turn this into a circle here, this spine into a circle or a polygon by using your curvature tool, that's going to take a lot of work. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Replace Spine feature. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a new spine, which is just simply a shape, okay? There it is. So there's my new spine, and it can be filled with a color or a stroke. Doesn't make any difference because you're not going to see this once this happens. In fact, I'm going to use my Command or Control Y to go into Outline mode. I'm going to take my new spine. I know it looks just like a circle because that's all that it is. And now I'm going to select both the circle and the blend that I've created. Under the Object menu, I'm going to go down to Blend, and I'm going to choose Replace Spine. Now it knows because I've drawn a new shape or a new line, and I've selected something that has a blended set of objects. When I choose Replace the Spine, it will then replace the spine, and it will give me my blended options on my new shape. and you'll see that my blend completely went away from here, okay? It just simply swapped it out. Selecting the shape, going back to my blend options, I can now go in and I can set this to not be aligning with the page, so they're all vertical. I can then go in and I can line to the path. And I can do this. Now they're all scattered all over the place here. Not a problem. Double click and isolate one of those shapes, and I'm then going to rotate this shape right here, and I'm going to turn it around so that this shape is perfectly vertical. Go to the last shape here, and I'm going to rotate this one as well. If I can grab it, there we go. I'm going to rotate this around, just like that. And you can see when you rotate them backwards, okay, how you get that diminished effect because it's going to, it's flipping over and then coming back around. But when I do this and I set this right at that, I now have my objects along the path. And this path can be made larger or smaller, and it can also be rotated, and you can change the curve of the path. So you can change this to any type of spine that you want. So here's something even more cool. Great that we can put this on a spine. I want to show you a practical example of this. I'm going to take a shape here. I'm going to have a large circle, and then I'm going to take that same large circle and I'm going to make it into a small circle. And what I'd like to do is blend these together. So I'm going to take my object, blend options, and I want to have a specified number of steps, and I want 8 circles to go from large to small, same color. And then I'm going to choose my object blend make. Okay. Now I can always stretch this out and do this, but you notice when I do that I'm going to stretch my circles. So if I want to move them apart, what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate that, and then I'm going to move this one to get that spacing further apart. Okay? Click escape to get out of it. Now I can scale this all down if I want large to small circles right there. Cool. Now I'm going to try something quite interesting. I'm going to grab my spiral tool. And with my spiral tool, I'm going to create this as my spine. So I've got my dots that go from large to small. I've got my spine, and I'm going to select both of these. Object, blend, replace spine. And now I have my dots going along my spine. Well, now I realize that there's not enough dots in here. Not a problem. Go back to my blend tool or go under object, blend options. With the preview turned on here, I'm just going to increase the number of steps in here to blend that. Pretty cool. When I click off this, I now have that super awesome blend right there. If I double click on my original start one, I can go ahead and I can make that larger. And so I can kind of blend these together. I can go to my end one and make that smaller or larger. So that's kind of cool as well. Okay? So now I get this totally funky, cool blend. One other thing I want to show you. What happens if I have a stroke on this object? And I'm going to put a nice dark purple stroke here so we can see this. So I put a stroke on this object, and I hit escape, and I've got my stroke going in here, and I notice that it's not really working the way I want it to. So I'm going to go back to my blend options here, and I'm going to control the number of steps right here. And even though I've put that stroke on there, it's not giving me what I want. So I'm going to go to this end circle here, and I'm going to isolate that shape there, and I'm going to throw a little purple stroke on the end. And now I get my strokes on everything, okay? So it's going from a thick purple stroke to a thin purple stroke going on around. All right, could be very interesting, especially if you wanted to then rotate this numerous times and create kind of a pattern. But one thing I do notice is I notice that this beginning circle is now underneath all these other ones. And my thought process was, oh, I want to put this on top so that these discs are going to be underneath this one. And you can do that. So if I select my blend, go under Object, Blend, and I reverse the spine from front to back, what this allows me to do is this then allows me to reverse it from front to back, meaning whichever direction the spine goes, it will then reverse it. So now you can see I get these circles looking like this is my main focal point on top, kind of blending into this spiral going down into a smaller shape. If I go under Object Blend and I simply reverse the spine, what that will do is that will swap out the large circle at the start for the small circle at the start and give me a completely different look. So I have kind of this big cluster here. So this is reversing the spine right here, switching your start and your stop objects. When you go under your blend here and you reverse from front to back, that simply brings your front object and puts it in the back, your back objects, and brings it to the front. Okay? Well, that could be really interesting and cool. It sure could, because you may want to do a very special effect with this blend that could be quite cool. So here's what I'm going to do with a special effect that is definitely going to change how it looks when we do a blend from front to back. I'm going to start with a circle, and then I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to do a much smaller circle. I'm going to make it much darker. Go to my color picker, and I'm going to darken that way up. What I want to do is I want to create this look of having a hole going down into something, or having this vortex effect of something going in, kind of like you're going through space in this tube of time. So I'm going to select my two objects, Object, Blend, Blend Options, and I'm going to do specified steps here. And the reason why we can't have the preview button when we're doing something like this, sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. The reason why this is not active is because we haven't actually made the blend yet. Once you actually make the blend, beyond just setting the options, that's when the preview button will come up. Okay? So I'm going to choose the specified steps of 12 steps and click OK. Object, Blend, Make. There's my steps. Now, in order to make this kind of vortex effect happen here, you can see that this kind of looks like a cone. I'm going to double click and I'm going to isolate this and I'm going to bring it over. And now it can kind of look like this, dark hole going into something. Okay? But if I move this off to the side too and I isolate this, it can kind of look like a cone, or some type of shell like that, where it looks like it's coming up towards you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then take this, I'm going to go on Object, Blend, and I'm going to reverse it from front to back here, which then will make it look like we're looking at the bottom going into something. Maybe like you're drilling into something, or you've got some type of funnel. So this could be interesting to do. So this is the object that we started with in front, and then the one in back. I want to reverse that again to bring that back here, so it kind of makes it look like it's either a cone, or we could do kind of this tunnel effect, where you're looking down into a tunnel or a tube. Now I'm going to go into my outline mode, and you can see we have a path or a spine on this. So with this spine, I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to use my shape or my curvature tool, which is going to be my Shift tilde, and I'm going to click on this path, and I'm actually going to bend this path to kind of create this vortex look. I'm going to go back under my preview mode here, and you can see we've kind of curved it to kind of offset this circle, okay, to kind of make it look like you're kind of like rising up into a tube here. I'm going to actually make this one circle even darker to make it look like we're going down into a tube, and I'm going to also make this a little bit smaller. And now I can move this all around to kind of create this incredible vortex look, like you're going into a tube, going into outer space. So this is a very interesting way of using the blend tool. Now this is specified steps, so it kind of gives you those ridges here. Let's go in and see what it looks like if we just do smooth color, okay? Something like that. And that's smooth color. So obviously you lose that effect, but it could be quite cool as you're going in and using that blend effect. I actually like this for the example that I'm trying to show, and now you can create this just cool vortex look. I love this. I absolutely love this. So with our different blends here, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And you can use it for simple things. Say, here's another great one too. I'm going to grab a circle, and I'm going to make it green. And then I'm just going to duplicate this circle over itself by using my Option or Alt, click and drag. Select both shapes, and in the Pathfinder mode, I'm going to use the intersect to get myself a leaf. And from this leaf, I'm then going to duplicate this, and I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to make it darker, and place it right on top of itself here. Now they don't need to be offset here, they can be right on top of each other here. I'm going to select both of those. Object, Blend, Blend Options. I'm going to do specified steps, say 6 steps, and then Object Blend Make, which is Option Command B. So there's my blend right there. I can take this leaf and I can move it all around and I can change that effect here. So I can kind of do this kind of gradient, but the stair-step gradient effect, and I can also change the attributes of this. So if I wanted to make some type of, maybe some type of brooch or some type of opal, something like that, I could go ahead and do something like that. So again, a lot of cool things that you can do with this as well. But it's incredibly simple if you would just like lines, okay? Lines that go from thick to thin, circles that go from big to small. Not a problem. So many times people try to do the craziest things the hard way, and I just want to show you the easy way, okay? I've got a 30-point stroke here with hot dog ends, okay? And all I want to do is I simply want to take this line and I want to go to a 5-point line, okay? That's it. And I would like all the other line weights in between. Okay, just perfectly stair-step. People will take this and they'll duplicate it and then duplicate it and then go through and knock it down a couple points every size. Don't bother. Object, blend, blend options. Number of steps, I'm going to say 12 steps. Object, blend, make. There it is. Look at that. Just like that. And now you've got this beautiful blend, perfectly sized, going through with all of your line weights gradually going down. And it's working beautifully. This is what I love. Now, here's the one interesting part when you do something like this. When I do circles or lines here, you'll notice that the lines are not perfectly spaced. And the reason why is because it's actually going from the midpoints here and it's spacing them out from the midpoints. However, you're not seeing the difference in the space in between. But I'm going to show you that because I'm going to do this both with circles and with lines. So there's my two circles. I've already set this up to have 12 steps here. In fact, I'm going to cut this down to 8 specified steps right there. There it is. And while this is really cool, it's measuring from center to center to center and not putting equal space in between. Don't worry, we can fix this. Now I'm going to go into outline mode again, and you'll notice that all of these shapes, okay, are all effects. I don't actually see all the lines blended in between here or all the circles. And the reason why is because we're still in our blend effect. So if I were to take my blend effect here and I select them, you'll notice when I select any of these, only the first and the last one are selected. None of the other shapes in between are selected. So I go under Object, Blend, and choose Expand. When I choose Expand, that is now going to expand them into all of their unique shapes. Okay? So Object, Blend, Expand. Right there. Now I have all my shapes. Now, how does that help me with the spacing? Well, here's what it does. When I've got my shapes right here, or my circles here, and I'd like to put equal spacing in between, the equal spacing was actually in the centers here, but that's not what I want. So I'm going to go under my window and call it my Align panel. And in my Align panel, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take my shapes here, and I'm actually going to ungroup them. So go under Object, Ungroup, okay, to make sure that they are completely ungrouped. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my first dot where I'd like it to be and my last dot where I'd like it to be. And I'm going to select them all. And then under the Align panel, and you may not see everything here, you want to go in and make sure you show your options so that you can see everything here. What I want to do is I want to distribute the spacing between all of my shapes. And distribute the spacing does not take into account the centers here. What it does is it equally distributes the spacing between each and every object. So if I were to take this and distribute the spacing here, I need to ungroup this. There we go. Make sure it's all ungrouped right there. If I distribute the spacing between the lines, do you notice how it doesn't do anything? So if I go ahead and pull this out and then distribute the spacing, it does this. And the reason why is because when you do lines and you distribute spacing here, it doesn't take into account the line weight. Here with the circles, it knows where the edge of the circle is, so it puts the exact same spacing in between each circle. When you have lines and you have strokes, it doesn't pay attention to the thickness of the stroke. So the one trick to get these to blend or to get these to space perfectly, you will need to take your lines, go under Object, Path, outline the stroke, so that they are now shapes, okay, and not strokes, and then use the distribute spacing so that you get equal spacing in between the edges of your objects. So this is a great way to go in if you're doing some type of stylized creation and you want to create like the curve of an object, or you want to have something curving off into space right there to get this really interesting stair-step effect. So blends, amazing, amazing things. So many things you can do with blends rather than just the traditional blending from one color to another. And this is super helpful. Anybody who knows how to do illustration or create some really cool stylized graphics, this is one of the tricks that they use here. With a blend, with a specified number of steps, expanding that, and then spacing them equally to get this all created. So hope you enjoyed that blend tool tutorial. It's one of my absolute favorites, folks. Check out my YouTube video for other fantastic tutorials.